So I guess I'm recording this. Yeah, I guess I'm recording this camera. Really weird, actually. Not really, not really. I can just look at something and just talk to myself pretty easily. I do it all the time, so very easy for me. So, in case you're wondering why I'm using a camera for this video, honestly, I just wanted to test this out. If I don't like it, I'm probably gonna switch back to using switch back to just, my faceless voice. So yeah, enjoy that. As for why I don't have a better quality camera, and why I'm in a room, weirdly just, yeah, I got my laptop camera, posed around. I can't be asked to put too much effort in this channel, so unfortunately, this is just what we're gonna have to deal with. Sorry, the camera quality is poor. I'm broke, so if you would like to upgrade the camera quality, please, I don't know, pass me some money. If you're Jeff Bezos, Jeff, I really want some money, please, please, please. So for this portion of the video, it's mostly just going to be camera, audio, whilst I'm speaking to do the introduction. The whole video isn't, this whole album list isn't going to be it's going to be full just camera, because I can't be asked to record all of that, and yeah, that's the amount of effort I want to feel like putting right now. Yeah, I was just going to have this video just filled with 2019 memes, but I don't have the capacity to do that, man. Because, like, I just really hate creating fully scripted content in which I have to act out emotions I just don't have. I can't, the one thing, I get tired trying to fake emotions I just don't have, and it's just like, man, I don't even feel human right now. So, it's just why I don't write scripts for some videos, even though this whole video has a script. Because I don't like to forget words, and I forget things very easily, and sometimes I can never say words. Also, I don't like doing rehearsals either. This entire video is just me battling against every part of myself right now, so enjoy the chaotic madness. Now, the first question that's probably in mind is, why are you doing a top 50 albums list from 2019 in 2021? Basically, the UK government fumbled the bag. That's all I gotta say. The UK government fumbled the pandemic. I can't do it. The panorama, the Panasonic, the panorama, the Pandora, whatever, the Panola, whatever funny meme words you can throw out there and use. Basically, yeah, London is in tier 4 right now, and we're currently in a lockdown, so yay. Trying to get work after graduation has been kind of a struggle, to say the least. So, whilst my employment status is in limbo, I might as well go hard in the paint with this YouTube stuff and just do something I didn't do. Basically, this is just me finishing something I didn't do because I just couldn't be bothered. Now, the reason I didn't do this video was mostly because I looked at my list, and some of the albums on the list, I know people didn't like, or they absolutely hated it. And I didn't want to put out a list people hated. Then the rest of 2020 hit, and then I realized, I'm not trying to impress anyone here. So, and to be fair, I have a lot of opinions people don't like, and I should just embrace the chaos of it. I'm not talking about anything insane, serious, I'm not talking about any serious opinions, like whether or not a person A should live or person B deserves living. No, not that. But, still, regardless, my mind is kind of fickle when it comes to, like, just media and stuff. And I think I should just embrace the chaos that is my mind and the criticism towards media. As for 2020 list, I do not know. 2019 for music was actually really good for me. I got into a lot of new music this year, and I also got into some artists I hadn't heard before but were really popular. I was like, hey, might as well do a list, hey, just show you the new music I discovered in 2019. Still, however, hip-hop still mainly dominates this list, but I did get into a few pop albums this year. Some of your favorites might be here, some of the ones you stan. Who knows? Now, for my top 50 albums of 2019, I don't have any criteria. Like I said, my mind is fickle as hell. I just have to feel that it's good enough to be in the list. Nothing else. I'm a music producer, a composer, and sound engineer, so I definitely appreciate a good instrumental, but I also do appreciate vocal performance. I also don't mind some clever lyrics and listening to experiences I don't have. So it's always pretty nice when it comes to albums and when it comes to music. Like, my mind is quite fickle in the sense that, like, I just decide, there could be one thing from one album I really like, and then I listen to another album, it does that same idea, and I just despise it entirely, and that could just sour my mood for the entire time. Things do be like that sometimes. And now, we get into the list. So, no more camera now. Goodbye. And we start off this list with number 50, Photo by Kota the Friend. This album is just too chill. It's like one of those beats where you want a lo-fi hip-hop chill relax study to, especially with some of the samples used in this album. You know, you got some instrumentation with a Rose piano and a lot of really nice sounding acoustic guitar samples. Especially in the song Photo and Hollywood, which were one of my favourite songs in this album. At number 49, Acquired Taste Volume 1 by Scarlxrd. So, Acquired Taste Volume 1 was the last album Scarlxrd dropped in 2019, and I am definitely a very big fan of it. Scarlxrd does something a little different this time with the production, which has a lot more modern mainstream trap sounds, and I think Scarlxrd can really ride the beats with his energy. And if you don't know, Scarlxrd is a really shouty, energy, loud rapper. Basically, just think of metal and then think of trap. Combine it together, you get Scarlxrd. Scarlxrd's beat selection is actually insane. Like, Smartphone has got me feeling like an evil puppet master. The only reason I have that specific imagery in my head is merely because of that one Rowdy Rebel song that features Bobby Shmurda when he goes, I think that I'm Tom Cruise. If you remember that specific vine, that's specifically what I'm thinking of, and it's only because they sound similar melodically. That song has thrown my head back to that song. And so, I'm just thinking of that. Another big reason why this album here is the song Vacation. Yeah, you got these sliding 808s, the chill guitar sample. Scarlxrd, just by shouting, makes such a chill sample sound so energetic. It just makes it bang. The only reason it's not so high is because the album length is so long, which draws it down, especially with some songs just being meh at best. It's not really an album I can repeatedly listen to, but there are a few good crop of songs here that I think, yeah, this is a good album. At number 48, Ventura by Anderson .Paak. Anderson .Paak decided to go back to his soul and R&B roots after having made a G-Funk album like Oxnard in 2018. Like, this album, whilst it's not as like unique and refreshing as Oxnard, this album just hits deep. It just hits. Okay, Andre 3000's feature in Come Home made me realize, man, I don't listen to Andre 3000 enough. I have not listened to this man in ages, and I forgot how good of a rapper he is. It's actually wild. Like, Jet Black might be one of my favorite songs in this album because it's just groovy. At number 47, The Sun Will Come Up, The Seasons Will Change by Nina Nesbitt. Now, this is the first pop artist on the list. This album is really good at blending a lot of trap elements, which seems to be the style in pop now, but there's a few electronic elements which work really well to give Nina's voice a really crispy characteristic. My favorite song on this album is probably Colder. Really like this album, it's pretty just calm. At number 46, it's For Real by YG. Stop Snitching and Go Local were just really good songs in this album. The album is very LA hip-hop, especially in the opening track, Hard Bombs and White Socks. I really appreciate how LA themed the beats were on this album. Even though the subject matter is very typical hip-hop, YG has a song dedicated to Nipsey Hussle, who passed in 2019. And even though I really don't like the song Keisha Had a Baby, YG at least makes an attempt to change the subjects. And I can appreciate that, honestly. At number 45, we have Diaspora, GoldLink. I actually first heard about GoldLink from Denzel Curry's Taboo, which was my top album of 2018. And I honestly thought he was Denzel Curry on Black Balloons because they sounded too similar to me. In this album, you can see a lot of Afrobeat and Afro swing influences, and it works really well. And it's weird because I don't really like a lot of Afrobeat, mostly because my parents spam it in front of me every time, so now I just despise it. But You Say has a Tyler feature, and man, every time I hear this man rap, I feel happy. At number 44, we have Chasing Summer by Sir. This album was actually pretty chill to listen to, especially because I listened to it on the train and on the way home from university. It was such a chill album, and Sir has this soft voice that he's just anti-Scarlxrd. New Sky has this really plucky guitar chord progression, Still Blue is just melancholy chill vibes, and Mood is just a mood! Also there's a bit of Japanese in the beginning, because I'm a weeb. But man, Mood makes me feel like I have a girl out there chilling in a bathtub with a view of Eiffel Tower. That imagery makes sense in my head, and you can never take that away from me. Number 43, 7 EP by Lil Nas X. Yeah, I put EPs on this list too. I also put, mixtapes on this list as well. Don't stress. I did it in 2018, so I'm going to do it again. Can't be asked to, go, is this really an album? Regardless, Lil Nas X really did break through in 2019. I also happy for having discovered the song through TikTok just before it got really big. And I'm proud of someone my age being able to reach global success just by being a meme. It's the perfect thing. A Gen Zer making it through Gen Z memes. 7 EP is actually really good for his first project. You know, you got Billy Ray Cyrus joining Old Town Road for the remix, and it's only just one of the best moments in internet history. Musically, the album's pretty good, is because, you know, Lil Nas X is trying to do a few different things, and especially with songs like Family and Closure, and I think it works personally. I'm a sucker for guitars, so yeah. At number 42, Heavy is the Head by Stormzy. In this album, Stormzy addresses a few controversies he was in, especially with people getting on his back about the scholarships of black students going to Oxford or Cambridge. It's a pretty solid album with mentions of other grime MCs and how he feels accomplished in life. Plus, he really hit my nostalgia with the Tracy Beaker intro references at the end of Superheroes. I ain't gonna lie, that got me in my mood. I was like, oh my god, I've heard this before! Oh, it's Tracy Beaker! Oh my god, it's Tracy Beaker! Ah, ah. Number 41, Eve by Rapsody. If you looked at the track names of this album, you can kind of tell this album is mostly about black femininity, and Rapsody is able to do a really good job of it. And then the production style is really good. It has a lot of old school hip hop samples mixed in with more modern rap elements to make this really unique album. Rapsody and Nina, she mentions about how Hollywood tries to copy black women, which is quite a very relevant topic and still, you know, current topic. And the instrumental in Whoopi, if you heard the instrumental in Whoopi, it just fucking goes in. It's unnecessary how much that beat snaps and how just great Rapsody does in that song. Any song in which has a weird sample is a big positive to me. If you have a weird sample and make it into a really good beat, it becomes it's stunning. It's just an impressive song. At number 40, Magdalene by FKA Twigs. FKA Twigs makes this album feel all biblical and choir-like. It makes sense because of, you know, who the album is titled after, especially with how her voice hits the high register effortlessly. And it also gives this album this somewhat spooky vibe sometimes, because this album contains a lot of very glitchy EDM techniques. And at least from what I gathered, the album, especially from what my initial thoughts in 2019 were when I looked at this album, my initial thoughts were that like it was about a lack of control from heartbreak. And Fallen Angel is this really great song with how dramatic it is. FKA Twigs goes into a more energetic singing style. And especially with how different the beat is in the beginning to near the end of the song, with how electronic it gets. And for me, this album was just really unique sounding. At number 39, RWBY Volume 6 soundtrack. First, let's just get it straight. RWBY still sucks, but I think the music remains really good. People say the music has been getting kind of stale because some of the sounds are still the same and they don't bother to experiment sometimes. But honestly, I enjoy the sound, so I have nothing against it. Rising So Far is one of my favorite RWBY intros in the last 3 years, personally. Just because of Casey's voice at the end of the chorus, it just really hits. And you got that guitar riff. It just kind of hits. Miracle has that one piano playing one note, and for some reason that hit me. And Big Metal Shoe just reminds me how much I like Caffeine as a song, so yeah, I like that too. Nevermore, despite how much pain it reminds me of how badly the show failed Adam, I really do appreciate the duet with Adrian Cohen. And whilst I do agree, you know, Jeff's singing isn't the best, I think on a song like Lionize, it works well for a character like Adam, you know, especially because his voice sounds broken and Adam was a broken man. Also, Cowboy Arm the Ready. Yeehaw! At number 38 is Nothing Great About Britain by slowthai. My first thoughts about this album, it was that slowthai oozes so much of his personality on these tracks, where he has a lot of witty punchlines, which is, to be fair, a noticeable characteristic I've seen from a lot of grime MCs anyways. slowthai mostly discusses the feeling of hopelessness of living in Britain, and it's pretty distinctively from the track Drug Dealer, which he points out, like, being a drug dealer is the only thing he could do in his life. slowthai does do a bit of singing on this album, which works really well in the very bleak Missing and the very dull Crack. He's not singing well, but the performance fits the instrumental and the topic. And let's not just forget how much of a banger Doorman is. It's almost this punk electronic fusion, which now just makes you want to start fighting people in pubs. I don't really drink, nor can I really fight. That song bangs for me. At number 37, Jasiah I Am by Jasiah. Another aggressive trap album. Jasiah is quite clearly very explosive on this album. However, this definitely gives me some very XXXTentacion vibes with how sometimes Jasiah will switch into a more melodic pocket in some songs throughout this album. Jasiah has what I would like to call a lot of fuck-off energy, which if you just want to go ham, you can do so. Shenanigans is such a banger. It's a SpongeBob sample. It deserves to be here, I'm sorry. At number 36, it's Florensence by Eat Your Heart Out. This album mainly details a toxic relationship that had already ended, with the vocalist explaining how she was forced to be something she wasn't, yet despite that, she's still trying to wish the other person well. I really enjoy this album musically, because I should probably point out this is a rock album. Especially, you got this guitar riff in Closer to the Sun, in which there's a part in the second verse where the vocalist is more energetic. She's actually screaming in this. Carousel has sort of this ballad chorus, with the verses having more energy than the chorus does, which works really well to sway arms to. Heavy with envy has this sort of infectious chorus, and the same with Nowhere. Pear Tree is this more acoustic track, and it's a nice peaceful break in the last leg of the album, personally. At number 35, it's Grey Area by Lil Simz. My initial thoughts on this album, that it was a really chill album, and I don't think I agree to an extent. I think this album is really unique in what Lil Simz tries to do on it. The album sound isn't a typical UK sound, which makes it quite refreshing, especially with a beat like 101 FM and Pressure and Flowers. However, Offense is clearly quite a UK-influenced sound, with very gritty electronic bass. Boss is just this hyperactive song in which Lil Simz is basically showing off her success. And the beat doesn't even end there, because it does evolve a little near the end. Number 44, it's Human by Dodie. The sound of this project is actually quite nice, actually. Arms Unfolding is this chilling a cappella, whilst Monster is this quiet vibe. You know, Dodie has this very soft singing voice, which is sort of ASMR-like, and I think it makes the album pretty chill to listen to. If I'm being honest, it's too slow-moving for me, but I do like the very short pauses in the second half of each bar. I also do like how the instrumentation evolves, where the violins are louder, and makes the song go from chill to like this more grand feeling. At number 33, it's Out of Peace by Toro. This album feels like you've just entered a club, and you're not really interested in anything else but the music, and you just want to vibe to it. Fading has these howling vocals throughout the track, which I'm 90% sure is on FIFA, or at least one of the songs in these albums are. Ordinary Pleasure is just a groovy synth beat with some African drums. Most of the album is, especially in Freelance, has this really watery synth passage. Who I Am is probably my favourite song on this album, mainly because of the vocals. With how childlike and robotic it sounds, it gives it this sort of juvenile feel. Also, that synth solo. At number 32 is Remind Me Tomorrow by Sharon Van Etten. This album has a lot of, I think, 70s and 80s inspired rock styles. At least that's sort of the vibe I get from listening to this album, and it definitely sounds quite nice. Sharon's vocals sound to me most of the time from how it's not very rock orientated, but it works really well on the album, especially on No One's Easy to Love. Comeback Kid is somewhat very groovy with how dance oriented the drum beat is in the verse, but then slows down in the chorus, giving it the sort of heroic vibe to it. 17 fits this old rock vibe, especially from like the gated snare sound. Sharon's voice is a lot more energetic, where her voice breaks at one point, where it gives this kind of vibe that she's missing some of the times when she was 17. At number 31, it's Devour You by Starcrawler. I was actually recommended this group by Theo from the Unverified server, and I think their sound is very good. This album does a really good job of blending punk, southern rock, and grunge in their sound. The lead singer can be very explosive, but then can sometimes be very chillin'. Lizzie is this very explosive opener, which sounds really dark. No More Pennies is very southern rock inspired. Born Asleep has this very wailing guitar sound, which just sounds amazing. At number 30 is Ignorance is Bliss by Skepta. I apparently thought this album was okay, but yet it ended up this high on my list. I'm not sure why though. However, I will say this, a lot of albums on this list, especially from 50 to 30, where this album is positioned, the margins I have between them are all extraordinarily slim. Almost every album from 50 to 30 can be swapped around in any order I felt like. It was just really small increments to put one album higher than the other. And that's probably why I didn't want to do this list, because there's so many small increments, it's going to look like, oh, every album just has this really big margin between each other. It's not very big margins, because all the music was really good. And it's because of the small things in this album, it really makes me love it. Bullet from a Gun is this chill vibe where Skepta takes a time to self-reflect a little. And I'm pretty sure Grease Mode is intended to be some sort of reference or homage to Sicko Mode, but I think it works really well. I actually enjoyed this song despite Nath Smalls biting off from Travis Scott, but I do not hate it. I also noticed the bassline from this song is also similar to the bassline from No Security and worse from the Vicious EP. I will say though, the instrumentals carry this album for me, especially with the percussive sounding No Sleep with this bell sounding instrument. And Pure Water to the end of the track, which was like out in 2018, has this elephone bass sporadically throughout. I really do like how suspenseful the track feels. English is Bliss's album is actually pretty decent, honestly. There's like Skepta just does a lot of small things, and you know, I think it's mainly instrumentals carrying this album. Also, there are just a few songs that I had heard previously that end up on this album, so it kind of raised up this album standing. At number 29, Izzy Real, IDK. First going into this album, it kind of gave me edgy atheist vibes, but this album is mostly about how IDK sees God as not real and questioning certain aspects of religion. In the end of the album, it's more like decide for yourself about God, which is heavily hinted at when IDK on Twitter later reveals that if you line up the last letters from each track on the album, it should spell out the word see for yourself. It's a really short album and it's full of a lot of interesting songs. I really love the run from the very humble inspired 24, which has this heavy bass kick, and this really low piano sound, which manages to work well in terms of mixing, then the really short but soulful portion, I do me, you do you. Honestly, the main reason I even like Lily is because the sample on the track is the same sample used on Cordecca's Wonderful and Logic's Midnight in the second half of the track, and Porno just has a lot on it. It's got this really distorted 808 sound, as IDK basically raps about sex. You've got this tongue clicking throughout the track, and it just builds an explosive chorus, where you've got the chanting, I'm not saying it, and then you've got Pusha T who features on this track, making a lot of metaphors to sex and drugs. Never change Pusha T. And obviously, there's a Jid feature. Did I mention there was a Jid feature? 28, Lost Boy by Cordae. It's very easy to see why this album is my favourite. Cordae was a very refreshing young rapper to hear, especially blowing up in the mainstream. He has this sort of coolness towards him, like he raps on this album like he's an old head who's been rapping for 10 years. Wintertime is a very classical jazzy hip-hop opener, which he discusses problems, example being, drug addiction. Have Mercy is this clarinet sample, which is stretched very heavily. Cordae's cadence and flow is just disgusting near the end of his first verse, with the beat stopping in between. Bad Idea works really well with the theme of the album, of Cordae feeling like he's lost, hence the name, and how the chorus is about how he wants to come home. And this is backed up with a nice feature from Chance the Rapper. Shame about Big Day. RNP is a banger. It's got this really funky backbeat with Anderson .Paak and Cordae just doing a back and forth. The song is just bouncy as hell. Even their flows. Now, Broke as Fuck is a trap banger, which is a shame, because I really don't want to be going ham as Cordae talks about his grandma passing away. It's kinda weird. This album is really solid, and it especially has a lot of sounds you don't see young rappers use, and it's interesting especially because when this album was released, Cordae was with YBN, and he always felt like the odd one out of the group, personally. At number 27, it's The Sailor by Rich Brian. This album really impressed me. I had honestly forgotten about Rich Brian's earlier songs when no one took him seriously, so this album didn't surprise me too much. This album is really well done. Rich Brian talks about his life as an immigrant in the US, hence The Sailor, getting used to the culture and how rap influenced him. Most of the instrumentals have these 90s boom bap style, but yet there's enough flavor in them added to allow a lot of these songs to stand out. The Sailor starts off with this sort of low-key club vibe with this wailing synth, and then there's a beat switch which has these guitars playing and some singing to it, which gives it this soulful feel. Yellow is this very cinematic trap sound with ambient synths and boom 808s with filtered and distorted vocals. Kids has this one funny bar about how he doesn't need attention because he's the youngest, and it's just against this really nostalgic piano and trumpet section where he reflects on his life with his siblings and comparing to his current life. No Worries has this long piano instrumental, bass and just vocals with no drums until halfway in the song, where the song begins to stutter until Rich Brian starts rapping, and it's just such a subtle banger. Rich Brian singing on this is really good on this album as well. Slow Down Turbo has this really cool idea where the whole song speeds up and we have Brian's vocals doing a sweeping pan. There are just so many interesting musical ideas on this album, which personally does enough to make this album just be really good. At number 26, it's Everything's for Sale by Westside Boogie. When this album was out, he was still called Boogie. The big reason for this album's high position is mainly because it's one of the first few albums I listened to in 2019, and some of the songs managed to stay with me up until the end of the year, which is why I think it deserves a spot. Even though the theme of this album is mainly about his relationship with this girl, and it's not working out, a lot of the songs have heavy R&B influences, even though that's basically an aspect of R&B. Tired/Reflections is this soft piano opener as he's scared of looking at his own behavior, which I think is a personally nice idea to talk about. Silent Ride is just this chill banger with this flute sample and this bouncy R&B backbeat and heavy. That kick drum is heavy. Have you heard how heavy that kick drum is? LOL Shaking My Head is an interlude. yet it's a really good one with this traditional R&B backbeat. Soho has this dull sample with very industrial sounding trap drums, and Jid just kills his feature. Did I mention Jid? Like, look at the way Jid enters the beat, interrupting the second half of the chorus with his double-tracked vocals, almost entering in as he's a spirit or something before rapping with a single-track vocal. Rainy Days is about how he's going through a rough patch and he's not trying to be bothered by anyone, he's trying to change things about himself for the better. And Eminem appears as a feature, but he ruins his verse when he talks about a shepherd having sex with a sheep. If you ignore that, it's a solid verse. But yeah, Self-Destruction has this really hypnotic chorus, which I caught way too easy. It goes something, something, something. At number 25, it's Assumed Form by James Blake. It's weird, this album is pretty slow moving, yet I enjoyed it a lot. It might have something to do with me listening to this album on a train ride back to university. This was my first experience with James Blake, but I can say I really did like the ambient and pop-inspired ideas glittered throughout the album. The opener has this hopeful piano sound with a very synthy bass and some glitchy hi-hats. I really like the near the end of the track where there are these eerie pitch vocal samples in the track as James Blake sings. James has a really good voice in which he'll be singing a regular register and then sometimes go back to a higher register mid-singing. Mile High is this chill ambient trap song which has Travis Scott as a feature. The song manages to not just feel like a Travis Scott song, Thank You Metro Booming, which is always a plus, especially helps where the trap drums will be cut out. You know, especially when James Blake is singing, sometimes trap drums are cut out. Also, some of the mixing in James Blake's vocals helps, where his vocal takes are doubled down to widen the stereo field. Tell Them is this very up-tempo trap song with Moses Summery's feature being really good, where he has this section where he hits a higher register and the beat just goes down in intensity to just call to his vocals. James Blake also sings in this song with such a soft tone, which makes the song sound so eerie, especially with the various string instruments throughout the song. Barefoot in the Park is this really warped romantic Latin song with Rosalia being the main aspect in the song. Can't believe the way we flow is just hypnotic and vibey personally. At number 24, it's Anger Management by Rico Nasty and Kenny Beats. This album is short and sweet and that makes it good, and I really loved it. Like, it wasn't my first time listening to Rico Nasty, but she really does a good job of giving us that very erratic and angry energy as she just spazzes out on the opener cold. And Kenny Beats just provides these really boomy bassy kicks. Cheat Code has this drum pattern which is very sparse enough to allow Rico's vocals to stand out, giving it this really erratic sound. Then you've got this filtered synth going around the beat in this section of the song with these very arcadey inspired sounds as if it's a video game. Obviously, Cheat Code. Hating takes the sample of Jay-Z's Dirt Off Your Shoulder, which is a classic sample, and Rico Nasty does a good job. Now, we've come to my favourite song on the album, Big Titties. Yeah, I said the word. And this song is just amazing. Okay, we've got these trumpets in the song, and you've got these, like, percussive bells being played throughout with the drums. And you got Olu from Earth Gang just starting off the song with such a confident and energetic feature. Like, he's just laughing. This man is just spazzing out on the track, and he's enjoying himself. It's just a cadence is just nasty. Rico as well in the verse, just letting you know, she's getting those. At number 23, it's Injury Reserve's self-titled album. The trio have some really well executed ideas on this album. Karuna and Lime is this very glitchy produced opener with this electronic piano. Groggs has this verse about being underrated and finally being paid. And then the end of Richie's verse just has this last line, I'll see you in my next life, being repeated again and again with a DJ record spin effect. And a lot of the production on this album is just really glitchy and experimental enough to allow the album to stand out from current hip-hop. Jawbreaker has these really mallet sounds, is like Richie talks about wanting to beat the shit out of people because they'll step on his shoes. And Rico Nasty appears as a guest, saying that she chooses to dress eccentrically because she likes it, not because she gets a lot of likes. Jailbreak the Tesla samples the Tokyo Drift theme song with the car sound effects going off periodically and some vocoder mixing on everyone's vocals. Amine has this really good feature. He's got this line, your engine goes vroom, my engine go. Korean Biscuits, I'm 90% sure I've heard the sample before, but it has this classical piano sound with quite 2000s inspired drum sounds with this very electronic synth. Groggs has this really calm and collected verse, while Richie has this more energetic and confrontational verse, which allows the two to stand out a lot in this song and throughout the album. Rap Song Tutorial is exactly what it is. It's got this robotic voice explaining how to make a rap song, critiquing how simplified the rap song process is. Some people say the song isn't replayable, but I can say it definitely is. It's just funny to listen back to again and again. At number 22, Mirrorland by Earth Gang. This album has a very interesting horror element which is littered throughout a lot of tracks on the album, and I think it's supposed to fit with the theme of growing up in Atlanta where Earth Gang are from, and it's discussing how it's like kind of like a scary place to grow up in.
Lala challenge.
This very jazzy rap beat which is slow moving, which has this slow moving harmonica sounding synth, and sometimes there's a church organ which adds this horror element. Then there's a second portion of the song which is more sped up in terms of groove. It's so clearly soul, gospel, and jazz inspired there, and you've got Olu howling as if he's at church. Up starts with Olu's voice more contorted and twisted to give it this demonic vibe. This album just speaks spooky season. Olu's voice is shaky and energetic all around the song and the whole album, and it just works. Doc's verse is about how he's trying to assist his friends on getting out of the dangerous environment they're in. Top down sounds nice with these guitars and choir vocals singing with Olu in the chorus, but we have this wailing vocal sample coming through which gives it this creepy vibe. Bank is the low octave piano trap beat. Proud You is one of those songs I wanted them to do because I've always wanted to hear Young Thug and Olu on a song together. The song is mainly about showing their thanks and honoring the people around them, which is mainly women in their lives. Young Thug doesn't hold back with his voice and his cadence sometimes in the song. Dr. Doc has a verse on this which he raps at a quicker pace and the drum pattern is a bit quicker. Tequila is the cinematic spooky vibe with trumpets, percussion, and electric guitar, sounding like a western movie, and a T-Pain feature that's just powerful as heck. At number 21, Ammo by Bring Me The Horizon. Bring Me The Horizon really do depart from their original sound from this album, and I wasn't really too attached to them anyways, so this album didn't bother me so much, but I can say I did enjoy it a lot. I think the only reason this album got higher than Mirrorland was mostly because I really did like the electronic elements of the album, but they still managed to keep a lot of the heavy rock elements with this album, and they do it in such a way that it's not really generic. Because I always notice, whenever like a rock band start doing electronic music, it just feels weird. It just feels, something about it just feels off. It's like, damn, this ain't the music you used to make. But even if it isn't, it still ain't very great. Mantra is a very good example, where the drums and guitar stay the same, but most of the electronic elements is done on the vocals instead. Nihilist Niles gives me this sort of futuristic space vibe where we switch between electronic drums and acoustic drums sometimes. And I really like a lot of the electronic elements on this song, like the synth bass playing in conjunction with the guitar. In the Dark is another really good harmony of electronic and rock where the drums switch a lot. The song is mostly about someone who's been cheated on, and clearly, especially because he's talking about how there are no secrets and how he can't be kept in the dark. Wonderful Life opens up with this very classic heavy rock riff, and instead of the vocals being more subdued like they were on most of the album, the performance is more aggressive. Ouch is very more EDM inspired, but with acoustic elements being put in, and I really do like the electronic drums play a part, and then the acoustic drums will attempt to copy it, and it gives it this really nice, like, call and response vibe. I honestly thought Fresh Bruises was a James Blake song because of how ambient the production is. There's this really distant piano, and then the beat builds up through the entire song as we get the kick. The beat evolves to a very strong point where it's like very cinematic. At number 20, Father of the Bride, Vampire Weekend. This album was constructed in such a way to fit the theme of a wedding, clearly from how it blends a lot of country and classical orchestral music, creating a lot of melancholic or nostalgic vibes in some songs, especially in the opening track, Hold You Now, which sounds very southern inspired but with some of the choir vocals in the chorus. Harmony Hall is such a happy feel-good song, notably in the chorus where there's a choir and just oohing vocals. I really like the verses as well because there's this guitar riff being played by two guitars panned left and right. This album makes me really understand why a lot of people on Twitter are into cottagecore. This album really made me want to go marry a woman and start a family out in the country. Other people are kind of racist, so... oh yeah. Bambina has little pockets of rock that come in where there's an electric guitar that sounds incredibly plucky and a more energetic groove being the drums and the kick. Then there's the second guitar sound which has this short staccato wailing sound. This Life is just beach vibes with this heavy reverberated and delayed guitar sound. How Long is just has this wah-wah guitar sound that's just watery as heck and this really nice piano sound. Unbearably White, the title alone drags it here because it's funny. Well, you know, yeah. Sympathy is just this really energetic and definitely Western movie inspired song which has me feeling like an outlaw. Diego! Definitely not part of the theme of the album, but man, musically, do I not feel like interrupting someone's wedding right now? The bassline is just something I can bump to, and that guitar too. Plus, the album is 18 tracks long, and yet manages to be less than an hour. Easily able to listen to. At number 19, Hollywood's Bleeding by Post Malone. This album is a lot better than Beer Bongs and Bentley, yet it only managed to be 19th, whilst Beer Bongs and Bentley was 10th. Hollywood's Bleeding is actually a stellar album that I really enjoyed. I've always liked Post Malone singing. The boy always sounds hurt every time he sings. Hollywood's Bleeding starts off with this guitar sample and Post Malone drenched in reverb, giving the song this dark vibe, fitting in with the theme of Hollywood is Bleeding until the song switches to this trap beat and then some acoustic drums. Most of Post Malone is just drenched in reverb anyways, which allows his voice to have this really demanding presence within every song. Saint Tropez has this really spacey trumpet. The beat on Enemies just reminds me of Lemon Soda for some reason, and it's just a chill summery vibe with the baby providing a decent feature. Allergic is more of a rock-inspired song compared to all the trap songs on this album, and I can tell why it's unpopular, but I really like the bass line, and Post Malone has a lot of less energetic singing in some parts of the song, which I usually don't see him do. Circles is another rock-inspired song where Post Malone does more vibrato with his voice, and man, it just kinda hits. And you've got these acoustic guitars coated in chorus, and I do appreciate the arrangement where there are less elements in the second verse, giving the second verse this more empty and closer feel where all the more reverberated elements are nowhere to be seen, making that part of the song sound really dry. Take What You Want is just a really good song. You've got these weird features with Ozzy Osbourne and Travis Scott, and yet it just works really well. You got chorus guitars over a reverberated Ozzy, and Post Malone doesn't let up with his vocal performance in this. Travis Scott doesn't make the song his, but he provides a really fitting feature, adding to this really chaotic nature, where the drums are sometimes sped up. Also, you've got an electric guitar solo in the end with Ozzy and Post Malone singing together, giving it this epic climax. And number 18, Fallen Man by Duckworth. This album was one of the more early albums I listened to this year, and it managed to get here mostly because of how short it is, and yet it still manages to just pack a punch without being overwhelming. I think this is an EP actually. Bow is this short opening track which enters a more refined, relaxed vibe until Duckworth returns with his aggressive style, accompanied with an electric guitar and trap drums. Electric, trappy, and aggressive is how I would describe this album's sound. Fallback has this really distorted horn sounds as a sample, which are contoured in such a strange way, and it's got these 808s dominating the whole track, copying the same melody of those horns. Duckworth has this really erratic flow, where he's saying how you shouldn't mess with him as a rapper, until we get this more soul section, where Duckworth is singing in such a nice way to lead back to this super aggressive hook. King King is this chill vibe with violins, giving it this sort of royalty vibe, which fits with the name of the song and the topic of how the N-word is used in a term of endearment for black people. Love is Like a Mosh Pit has this dramatic grand piano and still manages to sound aggressive thanks to Duckworth's strained vocal sounds and shouting Love is like a mosh pit. Love is like a mosh pit. Rick Nasty also appears in the song along with a nice feature. This album sounds just really unique from the most aggressive kind of rap, and it manages to enter it using some already done styles of instrumentals and music, and it's just really creative. At number 17, it's Rap or Go to the League by 2 Chainz. This album was at first place at some point, and I had to forcibly drag it back because it didn't make any sense to me. Forgiven has this really classical orchestral choir section sample, giving the song this very biblical vibes as 2 Chainz discusses how his arrest in high school prevented him from getting to the league. And you have Marsha Ambrosius, who was singing with a Jay-Z ad-lib. Threat to Society is this boom bap track with a gospel sample, giving you this classic hip-hop style, but it manages to sound modern just because of 2 Chainz' cadence. It's the kind of beat where you could talk about the things you regret could easily work on, and 2 Chainz does that job. The hook is meh, but the instrumental allows the song to sound amazing. Money in the Way is this upbeat trumpet song, and the hook is dumb infectious. I'm not sure why, but 2 Chainz' flow on the song just makes me want to sway my shoulders. Mama I Hit a Lick is a dumb song. I love it. Pharrell really did so much work on this. It's so goddamn stupid, but it's genius. Like I said, weird samples do a lot for me. Instrumentally, it's quite sparse. You've got these bells playing short notes and this really eerie high-pitched vocal sample as well. The only thing that isn't playing a short note is the 808s, and that's about it. And it gives enough space for the vocals to just enter in very easily. The beat just sounds super wacky as hell, and it's just a fun listen from a production standpoint. The entire song is just 2 Chainz and Kendrick boasting. 2 Chainz starts off with a confident cadence as he switches to a high-pitched voice, which is off, but it just works with the rest of the song. It's funny how sometimes I hate when songs try and put an 808 bass over an acoustic sounding kick, and it sounds weird, but yet this is one of those times where it's just really well done, because the beat is wacky anyways. Just do whatever. Kendrick's feature on this track was enough for me to put this album here, because look at the way Kendrick enters this beat. We enter in with Kendrick's vocals, entering with a small harmony, and then the beat stops, allowing this man to enter in like he's just got daggers with a quick flow. The beat doesn't even stop there. The vocal sample gets higher during Kendrick's verse, where he's just speaking in a very whispery voice. This song carried this album here heavily. Girl's Best Friend just reminded how much I like Ty Dolla $ign as a feature, as he just easily dominates this very early 2000s inspired rap beat. At number 16, When I Get Home by Solange. This is pretty much an album with Solange addressing her femininity and blackness, as she is, you know, a black woman. She does a good job getting male artists to be in a song and putting them in slightly different pockets to what they would be used to. Playboi Carti features an Almeida, which completely threw me the hell off, especially when we have artists like Playboi Carti and Gucci Mane pairing in tracks which you didn't think they'd fit on. This is a pretty good album in terms of sound. Solange uses a range of producers from Tyler the Creator and Pharrell Williams. Despite the different producers, the album remains pretty cohesive. It's a pretty slow R&B album in terms of intensity, but it does go very quick due to the short length in tracks. 19 songs and only 39 minutes. Short and sweet. It just makes it a really good album. Down with the Click has this low octave piano and this guitar synth playing throughout with drums. Stay Flow is just more easier to sing as the rhythm is more quick paced, especially with Solange's singing, and it's got this really funky bass line. Dreams is more down tempo, but the bass line gives this song a bit of groove to it. Gerard has this clavinet sound with staccato chord progression, which is followed by the bass line, giving the song a lot more rhythm as there's no drums throughout the song. Bins is just this funky song. At number 15, Fever by Megan Thee Stallion. This album or this mixtape was my first time ever listening to Megan Thee Stallion. Man, I feel happy seeing that she's gotten big throughout 2020. Megan comes through with this project with this very heavy Houston-inspired cadence and very confident voice when she raps. Megan does a very good job of keeping her hooks very catchy. I'm the kind of person who really doesn't enjoy flexing in music, especially the subject matter Megan talks about, but Megan's braggadocio makes me really want to rob someone, or I'll feel like I'm at a really turn-up party. And I get it, I know people don't really like that kind of subject matter, especially if like a rock fan, but it really did feel like I was in that sort of lifestyle, so Megan does her job really well. Despite most of the songs on this album having the same theme, I really didn't get too tired of any of the songs on this album. Why? It's quite simple. Production is quite well done. Hood Rat Shit has this string instrumental quoted in chorus with this low octave piano. Again, pimping is just drums and bass the whole way, but with some filtering all around and some samples as well, allowing Megan's voice to carry the whole song. Cash Shit is just bouncy, especially with the hook Megan gives, and it's such a perfect fit for someone like the Baby to do. Weak Ass Bitch, or WAB, not WAP, is this very arcadey, very inspired beat with this melody repeated throughout by piano, and then this really game-sounding synth, and it's such an up-tempo song, and Megan manages to keep up the pace with her flow on the song. Simon Says has a really infectious hook and just booming 808s and the fast tempo rhythm. Money Good is my favorite song on the album, and it's just because of the sample. You've got this like pizzicato string section working in harmony with this low wailing pad sound coming throughout the song, and it's just another fast-paced tempo song which Megan just rides the beat really well. Megan's third verse is just really good as she switches her cadence. This album is just full of a lot of bangers which just really hit me way too deeply, and I'll just put this album here. At number 14, Future Dust by The Amazons. This is a rock album. Again, I think the sound and the production of this album are my favorite. It's very heavily deep, distorted guitar sounds and some heavily compressed drum sounds. Honestly, despite being mostly a rock fan, I don't know much about rock genres. I genuinely don't care. I just go, oh, this sounds like this sounds like that. I'm just comparing, I'm just making vague references to what they kind of sound like to me. So I'm sorry if you don't get a good enough description from what this album sounds like. That's just how I can describe this album. Mother is this really dramatic opener. The vocal performance is really amazing with how he's able to hit such a strong and high register. Like, just the word fools just hits me so deeply. Just that one word. And mother! The beginning of Fuzzy Tree really gets you feeling in anticipation as it's got these drums filtered and then having a kind of stuttery start with the guitar and drums. The actual riff itself is really good, and the song is actually more faster paced rhythmically than Mother was, allowing the album to be more energetic than usual. But the chorus is different than the verse, as the guitar is less distorted and there's a higher pitched guitar riff as well. Rhythmically, it's a lot slower here. 25 is such a good song as well. The melody on 25 is really good, that it needs to be sampled on a trap beat. 1925 is this song I've been singing kinda wrong. Man, that line is just hypnotic by pure repetition. The strumming on the guitar really gets me in the verses, and there's just this addition of an acoustic guitar on the chorus, and the piano makes an appearance too, which gives the song this semi-old western vibe, which I guess makes sense with the song being about 1925. Near the end of the song, the rhythm quickens, giving this really dramatic and climatic end. Dark Vision starts off with these background vocals and cowbell that appears throughout the song, which gives it this vibe I can't exactly explain, but I really like it. The vocal performance with how stressed and strained the vocalist is throughout the song, giving it this really intense vibe. However, my favorite part is the guitar riff near the end, which gives me evil anime villain vibes. Georgia is this really good closure, which lessens the more heavy elements with acoustic guitar, having a more presence and less distorted elements. It gives a sense that this album is ending, and it's obvious where near the end of the album, where the song just peters out in volume, but you hear the reverb of the guitar. At number 13, Cause I Love You by Lizzo. Lizzo has such a refreshing style of blending R&B, jazz, pop, rap, and trap together, and her voice is just really strong throughout this album. Lizzo's voice on the title track blew me away with how strong her voice really. Like, you can hear her voice breaking to fit the emotions of the words she's saying about how she was trying to get a man to like her because she loves him, but those feelings aren't exactly reciprocated on, like, the title track. Like a Girl is a song mostly about Lizzo being confident in her femininity and putting a positive on the phrase, you throw like a girl, and making references to successful women such as Serena Williams. I really like Juice because it's got this very funky funk pop inspired dance vibe. You've got these guitars and these really slick bass lines, and Lizzo's vocal performance is just really good of how confident she sounds. It's not as intense, but she's able to showcase this really cool and slick vibe with her voice. Jerome is more soul inspired. Crybaby has this really 70s, 80s, or whatever era this is, sort of pop rock vibe to it. And Lizzo does such a good job of maintaining a higher register with an energetic cadence. Musically, it's really good with this down-tempo rhythm and slow-moving chord progression, but a more quicker bass line. Tempo is very rap-inspired with a very high octave synth, which has this really club-inspired beat which works. Lizzo has a thick thigh saved lies line, so that's a plus to me, and Missy Elliott kills her verse as a feature. Exactly how I feel, which has Lizzo continue on the train of having such a strong vocal performance on how she doesn't want to change. And Gucci Mane provides a really nice feature on the song that's not trap at all, and he does well. At number 12, It Possibly Can't Ever Go Wrong by Bellevue Days. I listened to this album really late last year. I knew some of these songs on this album would be on repeat for 2020, and that's why it's so high on this list. This album is just too beautiful. Every musical idea in this album doesn't stay for very long. Every song changes rhythm almost at the drop of a hat, basically keeping you on your toes. You can kind of only dance to the song a few times, but it's nice. Gentle Flowers starts off with this palm-muted, quick-plucked guitar, with the vocalist singing very monotone, but then changes to a more fast-paced, somber vibe. The song is just very somber throughout, despite the change in musicality. You've got the lines, I don't wanna go if I go alone, without drums and just guitars, which adds to the sadness of the song, but then it becomes more intense afterwards, where the vocalist sings with more energy, and even screaming. Shotgun starts as similar, where the vocalist is more monotone, but is more energetic and sad further into the song. There's a lot of nice ideas, such as the tremolo in the bridge of the song. And the chorus is my favorite part of this song because it's in contrast from the more fast-paced pre-chorus, and this chorus is just full of background vocals just going you, and these really heavily distorted guitars. Jorska is my favorite song on the album. It's pretty simple. It's astonishing how different the beginning of the song is from the rest of it. The beginning makes you think it's about to be this dark, broody, depressing song, and whilst it is that, the song has a very cheery vibe to it, especially with how chanty the song is. I feel happy when I'm sad, how messed up is that? And it's sung in such a way that makes the song sound very cheery rather than dark, which makes me want to sing to it. And the chanty vibe is provided by the background vocals. Also, the band is British, so that helps a lot. The song is mainly about dealing with sadness, and I mean, the whole album is, but it's mostly about how he tries to cope with sadness and realizes how melancholic that sounds. And the second half is just entirely different. The riff changes, and the guitar plays this more somber feel, rather than be cheery. The vocalist is expressing how he doesn't want to cover up his feelings with pills and sex, repeated throughout, ending with the line, I'm a melancholy man, with this really explosive and sad guitar riff. The Greatest Demise starts off really slow and monotone, mostly about how hard it is to get up in the mornings. The second chorus is easily my favorite part of the song because of how energetic the rhythm is, which makes the hook stick. Like, it has this sort of anthem vibe especially because of the background vocals of "You can't help me now, you can't help me now, and you tell me this all the time," only to return to a more slow pace and just a different guitar riff in the middle 8 and then go back to this energetic chorus again. SAD is a song about hiding the feelings of sadness away from your friends because they won't believe you. And so the vocalist has this stuff, you know, where he's pretending to hide his sadness from his friends. So he's almost pretending it doesn't exist. And so the song continues on showing how this hasn't exactly worked out others for his problems. The second chorus is more aggressive and energetic than the first one, having quick drumming and heavy distorted guitars and very compressed snare sound. The bridge has this very somber sound, and the aggressiveness of the second chorus is a bit more wilder with these howling vocals and the high register the vocalist is able to reach. Sleep Repeat again has this dull, distorted guitar chords and these really compressed drum sound. The bass line is just really slick, which gives the slow parts in the drumming some energy in the song. The singing is my favorite part of the song with how memorable the lines are. You got the monotone singing, which works with the line "Sleep Repeat again," giving it this bleak vibe. The song is somber, sad, and monotone. And despite the album repeating the same formula, it doesn't get too boring, especially with the second half of the song where it just dies down and you have this guitar riff playing when the vocalist shouts, taking us into the next part. And then you've got this line of, "It's such a stupid mistake. A fucking stupid mistake." And it's got this sing-along vibe to it, despite being so sad and somber, especially with the background vocals doing their ooze. Lily is this nice closer with an acoustic guitar where the vocals are more present in the mix, but it's just a slow closer for such an intense album. At number 11 is Revenge of the Dreamers Free by Dreamville. I was anticipating this album in 2019 because I just wanted more JID and Earth Gang, and some of the features I saw being on this album just made me think this project was about to be a big one. This album is just full of a good pocket of artists that just managed to glue together. The production is really one of this album's strongest suits with how jazzy and soul inspired most of the songs are. Under the Sun has this gospel flipped sample, and it just features J. Cole with a strong verse and Lute with a line about how he wish a nigga would, like Liam Neeson. For an opener, it's really good because J. Cole is the head honcho of Dreamville, introducing the album to us with two other rappers from Charlotte, North Carolina, and DaBaby just appears, you know, with a nice verse. Not to mention the Kendrick Lamar, "I woke up with some money." Down Bad slaps. You've got these trumpet samples in this arcade alien-esque synth going in the song. JID just slides on into this beat to introduce us to the hook. Young, Nudie, and Bass do a really good job on their verses, and I really love the cadence J. Cole comes in and the flow he has. And Olu from Earth Gang has this really erratic voice in his feature as he just spazzes out. Lambo Truck is this really chill vibe of a song where you're just listening to Reason and Cause talking about how they're underrated rappers on their labels and how they should rob their respective label managers. Oh Wow Swerve. J. Cole has this verse about all the terrible shit he's seen in life, where JID, Smino, Guap 4000, and Buddy are on the hook as Zoink Gang. Swerve is my favorite part though, as it's a different beat with this eerie sample. Key's flow on the hook just makes it memorable. It's got this kind of skippy feel to it. Happy on the outside, jelly on the inside, and I know it inside out. Maxo just enters the beat with this monotone but really confident cadence, and it works so well with the flow he has. Is a pig's pussy pork? Can a caterpillar fly? That is a part from that line. Don't Hit Me Right Now is this slow jam R&B song with Guap 4000's voice coming out here. Bass manages to fit this song really well with such a good verse. I would be lying if Wells Fargo didn't carry this album to where it is. This song only really got added on the album because of how crazy everyone went on it in the documentary. It's just hilarious listening to Americans imitate British accents, and everyone is just having this stupid fun over creating a beat, and it has this really fun vibe of being in a studio session and just making hilarious things. I really want to rob a Wells Fargo now. I don't listen to Sleep Deprived that much, but I really love the Vione's vocals, where there's a little bit of vibrato in her singing, and it sounds really nice. Same thing with Baby Rose's voice in Self Love, which it sounds like she's been singing for 40 years, and it blew me away the first time I heard it. Costa Rica is low-key a mess of a song, by being full of a lot of features. However, if you listen to Smoke Perp's feature and then hear Jid come in with such a quick pace, it felt like Jid just overtook Smoke Perp in a race, and Jid's verse ends off with a girl's mistaking him with Sway Lee. And then we have Ski Master's Slump God verse with technical rapping on display, where he's able to switch between fast and slow flows at a drop of a hat and still maintain the beat. Also, go on a date with an AK! Ay! Sacrifices is this really good closer where the song is more somber and mellow, where all the artists on the song talk about all the things they've sacrificed. Olu's verse is just really strong with his energy, and his voice just allows him to stand out. I really like the part where his voice is just automated to pan left to right with each phrase. And Smino appears with a very Smino verse, and he manages to work really well on this beat, especially when he hits a high register in the pocket of this song. And the end of Saba's verse is really good with how dumb he goes into his rhyme scheme. It's really insane. It's actually really good. His rhyme scheme in that verse is actually really good. And J. Cole has this verse, he has an energetic force in him, and he's just mentioning how he's a father now, and has another child soon to come. At number 10, When We Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? By Billie Eilish. I'm probably one of the few people who kind of understand why Billie Eilish deserved to win 4 Grammys. I mean, it's a really, really good album until the public rinsed it. The first thing I knew about Billie Eilish was the very terminally online depiction of her fan base being not like the other girls type, so I could kind of tell what her sound was like, and to be fair, it's a really good sound. The production her brother Phineas provides is really good, as it's got a lot of EDM inspired sounds with very glitchy and lo-fi elements to it. It really does sound like as if it was done in a bedroom and laptop instead of a high budget studio, which gives the album this sort of nice authenticity. Bad Guy is still a banger, despite how rinsed it got in 2019 and 2020. The bassline is groovy, and Billie's whispery vocals just gives the song this airy vibe to give these two adjectives a contrasting feel. There are no snares, just clicks. And also what the fan Billie Eilish spoke into in that song. It also helps that this song can be very easily led into We Are Number One. I'm glad Seth Everman put that idea out there, because I swear I thought I was stupid for thinking that at first. Zanny by the chorus alone just gives me the vibe the song is about the theme of peer pressure. She doesn't need drugs to feel better. There's this really cool sidechain effect where the kick distorts Billie's voice with this really airy piano sound. You Should See Me in a Crown is a very EDM inspired track, but it has these sound effects which sound metallic, which helps to sell this really airy vibe of Billie's music. All the Good Girls Go to Hell has this really groovy bassline and this really cool synth-line melody in the chorus. 8 is very different from the rest of the songs of the album, as it's quite a mellow pop guitar ballad, but Phineas's production is still littered throughout with the glitchiness and Billie discussing her pain. My Strange Addiction is just bouncy as heck, and Billie's voice is really good as she hits some of the high registers of her voice. Bury a Friend sounds like a pop song I've heard before, but Billie's voice makes it pretty unique, especially with her whispery vocals. There's also this dance beat and limited percussion throughout. It's a very dynamic song in terms of how many different elements you hear throughout to make the song feel unique. This album is just really good at how Billie's voice is able to stand out with these very extravagant and always changing elements within the music throughout the album. At number 9, All My Heroes Are Cornballs by JPEG Mafia. If you've watched the 2018 album, my top 50 albums of 2018, then you know I like JPEG Mafia's Veteran. JPEG Mafia is known to be a bit more of an experimental rapper with his production style, using a lot of weird samples and not really sticking to a formulaic structure at all. I will say though, this album is very digestible without it being necessarily off-putting. This album has a lot of influences to grunge, rock, and sometimes even pop from a rapper. Jesus Please Forgive Me, I Am a Thought has this guitar sample with these really stripped back sounding drums. However, JPEG Mafia doesn't really keep this chill vibe, as he not only increases the intensity with his cadence, but with the really low rumbling bass. JPEG Mafia also sings more often in the song and the album, which works really well. He has this line of, "You better count your blessings for real," suggesting that you better appreciate life, and he sings this line. There's a lot of religious imagery, obviously, and a lot of irony towards it, especially with the mention of FOTO, giving this sort of vibe of not to give a shit what other people do. Keening vs. Kel is just JPEG Mafia doing what he usually does with how he's going to fight his enemies, but making sure to reference a sense of femininity, which is present in this album sometimes. We've got these chime sounds and an industrial drum beat with these reverse hi-hats, and then it switches over to this heavy punk siren-like instrumental. I don't know what it is about beta male strategies, but that sample is peaceful as heck for a JPEG Mafia track. I've always found it cringy when rappers make songs criticizing people on the internet, but JPEG Mafia does it with like less anger in his voice, so it makes it seem more threatening. But the beat switches to this extremely distorted guitar sound, and for some reason I always do the laugh at the end. Ha ha ha! Grimy Waifu, I'm a weeb, so this song is just really good to me. But regardless, This song is just Peggy talking about guns, which is kind of hilarious, but I really do like the singing on it because it's JPEG Mafia more subdued and less aggressive than Peggy's typical style, and yet it manages to keep the album feeling cohesive. In PTSD, JPEG Mafia has this really cool flow in the first verse and even criticizing other rappers' label deals to Brexit. The title track, All My Heroes Are Cornballs, is this really simpy staccato beat, and JPEG Mafia has this flow on the second verse where he just exudes confidence, where he criticizes the socio-politics of America. How did they go from Anne Hathaway to Anne Coulter, and mentioning how incels are angry that he's getting more mainstream appeal. Prone is a punk song without necessarily needing a guitar. You've got this gritty, distorted synth throughout the song with these heavy industrial drums, and JPEG Mafia and these shouty cadence in the album. The first verse has this very super energetic and bouncy flow to it that's just got me shouting one of the lines too. One shot turn Steve Bannon is Stephen Hawking. Don't strike me. FOTO Tactics has another inquirable about put the keyboard down, get the Mac out. But the song is in the perspective of a woman trying to impress a dude. Free to Frail is just a powerful song. You've got Helena Deland singing with JPEG Mafia in the chorus, giving the song this sort of sing-along vibe, and it just works for the song about feeling weak and down. Peggy was just insanely creative in this album, and he manages to still come out and showcase himself as a rapper, and still manages to sprinkle a lot of singing to showcase his vulnerable side, someone with such a tough At number 8, Gallipoli, Beru. So in 2019, I decided to do some genre finding. I found this album, thanks to it appearing on the Spotify front page when it had just come out. From what I'm told, this album is an indie folk band, and yeah, I get that vibe from some of the music. This album was just really easy to vibe to and pretend you're on an island somewhere vibing as well. It makes sense why this album was named after an Italian town, other than the fact that this music was recorded there and takes some inspiration culturally from some of the music. I don't know what it is about ambient trumpets, but they really do get me in a mood. When I Die is this slow grand opener when you have this sort of marching band with this unchanging kick and these various string instruments and horns in one shaker. I will also appreciate the singing on the album with how calm it is to set the tone. Gallipoli is clearly quite folky and movie-esque. It feels so triumphant and booming. That trumpet melody and the bass line, then there's this really amazing run between I Giardini and To Landslide. It's just really stellar. I Giardini features this guitar, and despite how slow moving the song feels, there's this one percussion throughout which keeps the rhythm feeling somewhat normal, and I really appreciate the departure from using a traditional drum kit, giving it this somewhat cultural vibe. The chord progression being shared by the guitar and the piano really hits home on Gauze Fozar, and then you've got these shakers and tambourines, and the trumpet, and those oohs, it really just hits. Corfu really does feel like you're just chilling on a beach with these heavily reverberated pianos and strings and synths. I don't know what it is, but the vocal performance is just really good on Landslide with how strong it sounds, despite how soft and slowly it's being sung. At number 7, Infinity, Scarlxrd. Scarlxrd decided 2019 would be a good year to drop 3 albums, and I'm not sure why he would, but honestly, I don't hate it. Scarlxrd isn't an artist I come to particularly for subject matter, so this doesn't bother me. What Scarlxrd does have is energy and just nasty production. Scarlxrd is an artist who blends the screaming vocals of metal with the hard-hitting drums as trap music, and it manages to work in such a nice concoction in this album. I've always liked Scarlxrd's beat selection. It's all bassy, distorted, and it gets my blood pumping. These songs give me an excuse to be violent sometimes, even though I lack the bone to be violent. Also, this album might contain one of my favorite songs of the year. I Want to See You Bleed has Scarlxrd rapping a quick flow with these less aggressive rapping on some parts, but then getting more intense. Just listen to the way he says bleed. Bleed. In a guttural screech, going deeper instead of higher. Scarlxrd has good flows on this song, especially on the second verse. I also love the fact he makes fun of the fact that he has a mental breakdown on the song. You Make Me Sick has Scarlxrd howling the word sick over this very ominous bell type beat you hear in drill music. Living Legend has one of the strongest introductions in any song. If you wanted to get someone into Scarlxrd just quickly in a second, this is one of those songs. It's just straight in there, and it's him just shouting, calling himself a living legend because he's created a style that not many people are doing, and he's still alive despite being a legend. And the beat is using this Japanese Kota instrument over it, which reflects some of the Japanese imagery Scarlxrd loves to use. No Pressure is pretty different than most Scarlxrd songs, as he starts by shouting more in the verse, but the chorus has less shouting in it. So Sad has got this really jolly sample and this horn-like sound playing 2 notes as Scarlxrd talks about her struggles whilst flexing, whilst showcasing that money is not his key to happiness. And obviously, the shouting works with Scarlxrd to show how pained he feels, which is kind of typical for a track like this. And I really hate when people diss artists who do things like this because they mainly talk. And personally, I think that's a very dumb take. Shut the Fuck Up is a good song. The best song in this album, actually. Probably one of the best songs of this year. I'm gonna have to. This is why this section here is going to be quite long. First of all, the sample is a very UK hip hop kind of sample, which doesn't surprise me. And Scarlxrd just comes through the cadence of a really sassy person as he talks about the success in his life. Like, bruv, yeah, oh, you're trying to diss me? Well, bruv, I got it all, man. He comes off like a spoiled child in this, and it's just really just prevalent with how sassy his cadence is. He talks about his success in life, and I need to do a play-by-play of the song. It's pretty damn funny why I like this song. Scarlxrd starts off with minimal screaming. He starts off pretty regularly normal. The only time you hear him screaming in his verse is "turn my shit up fucking loud," which turns into a scream, which makes sense, because like, hey, turn my shit up fucking loud, and he's just screaming. He's getting louder. And this is enough to allow the kick to come in the song. And it's so hilariously effective and effortless. And you can also hear how effortless Scarlxrd feels, especially from near the end of the first verse, where he's rapping in such a monotone way, like he's so unbothered by the negativity that his fame can give him. Like, I really love it. I always love it when beats cut and the rapper raps on it. Scarlxrd doesn't do that. He just shouts, "Shut the fuck up." And man, does he make me just want to shout it out. He's just like, "I like the way, huh?" And man, it just makes me want to do it. It's like he's in command of the beat and it will just bow to him. And it just exudes such dumb anime power. Then you've just got the flow in the beginning of the second verse, and he manages this quick pace. Look, the way he says, "I'm like, wait," it's just, he exudes it with so much sass. And I think the one reason I love the song is how aggressive Scarlxrd can sound and then turn into a sassy dude in the song. No Advice has one of the most funniest build-ups to a beat, where it has this synth harpsichord which starts off slow and then begins to build up in speed, and then just with this boom. Head Gone is a very obvious departure from Scarlxrd's usual sound, bringing in some boom bap drums, yet Scarlxrd shouts throughout the track. He's got this line, "ducking from that broke nigga energy. If it ain't about the money, give it to my enemies." Scarlxrd's flow is just pure excellent here, with the way he changes flow more often. At number 6, Voice Memos, Quadeca. I'm not gonna lie, Quadeca probably wouldn't be this high if I wasn't already a subscriber to his YouTube channel, so that gives him more points in my book from someone a year younger than me. This album's theme is the idea that someone recording music on their phone and hiding it from others as they're scared for other people to see it because they're scared of being judged. This starts pretty obviously with Ego Death, with this keyboard sound and Quadeca singing these harmonies. The rest of the song has this really bouncy synth piano vibe. Quadeca is really good at rapping, especially when it comes to having a really good flow. He switches between being very energetic by showing off his success and then being monotone in the bridge. Imagination is this really fun sample flip of the song Imagination from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You've got this line about how making it as a rapper, a lot of things were against him, even referencing a world-class player like Rakitic getting far in the World Cup with Croatia. A Dream I Can't Remember has this really strong EDM vibe with how coated in reverb a lot of the sounds are. It's this really powerful song about chasing a high or a dream for a happy time despite not remembering it, with references to drugs and lines like, "I just took 2, I just took another few." I'm convinced Thank You Next is why this album got so high, because of reasons you'll find out soon. Thank You Next is a flex song with heavy ignorant vibes, and the beat starts off with such a very relaxed kick pattern, heavy boomy 808s, a snare and hats. I really love how the beat builds up when Quadeca says "Thank You Next." You hear this harpsichord going in the song, giving the song this goofy vibe, which fits with Sad Frosty's feature on the track. Quadeca's cadence becomes more refined in the chorus, and then he has this sudden vibe change where these mallet sounds replace the harpsichord and gives it this very somber vibe. The Man on My Left Shoulder is Quadeca dealing with his problems in a very negative way, and there's 2 different vibes in the song, which gives it a very nice feeling. There's this really sad piano vibe and ominous choir vibe in the other part of the song. Is just a fun song titled about one of Quadeca's favorite ad-libs. Quadeca comes in a song with a lot of good flows and really mocky cadence. I really like the piano melody on Real Thing, and it's probably one of my favorite songs in this album. This song is mostly about imposter syndrome, feeling fake, and despite being a YouTube rapper and a stigma label, but he's showcasing himself as the real one here. He's kind of turning it on its head and going, well, I'm actually the real one. War is Quadeca and Dax proving themselves as better than the other rappers, and this song at the time was a really good moment, especially because Dax and Quadeca were one of the 2 rappers who dissed KSI. Then we've got Eyes, which is this boom bap beat, which provides a nice clean break from most of the trap, and has this nice chill mood where Quadeca reflects back on his life. At number 5, Thank You Next by Ariana Grande. Ariana Grande really did make pop a little more bearable for me by borrowing a lot of elements from trap and rap, so the production on this album is incredibly well done here. This album doesn't do too much, but it doesn't need to do too much to impress me. It's a relationship album, but it's not really what I'm interested in. Ariana's singing is really stunning, and I swear, every time she hits a high note, I think she's just flexing on us now. Needy is this really fun vibe, but it has this really ambient synth, which has this bell-like quality to it. It's almost like a siren fitting in with the theme of Ariana feeling needy. You know, it's a call. It's a call for help. Nasa has this really boomy bass line that I kind of like, and she's singing as if she's got singing as if it's a soft jazz song in the verse, and it works. Bad Idea has a really fun guitar riff, and Ariana has parts of the song where she's singing a little, which makes those pockets of the song really fun to listen to. Makeup has this sort of R&B and trap vibe to it with how chill it is sometimes. It's got these high siren-like synths playing throughout, giving it this sort of lo-fi 80s vibe to it. I also really like the sample from In My Head, and Ariana showcases more of a singing talent throughout the song, doing a lot more vocal techniques through it. Then we've got Seven Rings. It has the line, "Give me the loot." Enough said. This is just Ariana flexing in the song about how rich she's gone, being able to spend the money on her friends. Thank You Next, as an instrumental, is just fun. It's got this clearly 80s hip-hop backbeat behind the song with some 808s, and then has these pop chords on. It's a really nice fusion of modern rap and old rap and pop, and combines to make the song a banger, to be honest. Break Up With Your Girlfriend is this up-tempo trap beat, which has this braggadocio and selfish vibe to it, which is kind of cool. This album just does those small things to combine into one big thing, which allows it to hit number 5 really easily on my list. At number 4, What's It Like Over There by Circle Waves. I don't know what it is with this album, but it really took me. I first heard about this band through listening to The Fire It Burns featuring Paris. I really appreciate the high production value I can hear on this album, which was enough to put this album here. Everything just sounds amazing. Sure, the music is kind of cheesy, but damn, it sounds aesthetically beautiful and pleasing to my ears. So none of that matters. Sorry I'm Yours has this clean sounding snare drum that sounds beautiful. I will say, the chorus bangs. You've got this guitar riff being mixed in with the background vocals, almost as if the guitar is the vocals. The production gives off the impression that, at least to me, the music is closer to your ears than it is. It's weird. A lot of the guitars are heavily distorted as heck. Yeah, it doesn't sound anything too close to sounding heavy. Times Won't Change Me has got a bit of pop inspiration. I mean, most of the album does, but it really works well when you've got these twinkling piano sounds and this marching band groove singing the song, giving the song this sort of badass beat. I don't know what it is about Movies. I think it's the drums. There's this clear switch between electronic drums and that really cool guitar riff, and the vocalist just goes off hitting some high registers, and I don't know what it is. Dudes hitting high registers really hit to me, because now I just want to join in. Me, Myself, and Hollywood has these really buzzing sounding guitars playing this one riff with a lot of vibrato. Be Somebody Good has this really cool guitar solo section which sounds really dark, kind of changing the really happy, relaxed nature of the album, which, from what I can tell, the album is about someone healing from a broken relationship. Passport is this really dreamy jazz piano melody song, and it has this somber lyric about saying goodbye. Goodbye to the good life. Motorcade is a straight good opening banger just from that initial guitar riff and that synth bass being able to merge with the bass guitar. The song starts off dark and broody, but the chorus is just really bright and happy. Savior is just a really banging closing track. It's got these distorted and wailing riffs. Re-listening to that song made me understand why this album ended up where it was. At number 3, AJ Tracey self-titled album. I'm still confused to this day how this album got here. Honestly, it might have just been the early impact. This album really came strong on me. This album has a really nice mixture of grime, UK hip-hop, US hip-hop influences in terms of sound for this album. Plan B is this really vibey, mellow piano opening track, and I like the double tracking on AJ's vocals. It's a really good opener for his first album to basically explain his claim to fame. Jackpot has this guitar sample, giving the song this sort of island vibe, which makes sense because the song is essentially about how lucky AJ is for being able to afford a lavish life. AJ has this flow in the second verse, which doesn't seem like much, but if you put the flow with some drums, it just sounds amazing with how quick and rapid it is. AJ has this really calm vibe, especially in the chorus in Arena, where it sounds monotone, but it's a really fine line between calm and 21 Savage monotone. In the second verse, AJ is more lyrical with this really quick flow, but with a nice rhyme scheme. Exotic, hypnotic, knock it, walk it, team rock it. And it's a really nice but small touch for a song that's just about a girl. I'm not an Afro swing guy, but they tend to get stale, but I really like Wifey Rhythm 3 with how well it's produced. It's got the obvious mallet sounds and African drum patterns, but I really like the music in the chorus as it's got these synth sounds spiraling throughout the track, giving it this sort of video game vibe. It allows the song to at least be different. Ladbroke Grove is this very typical UK garage song, which gives me some wild nostalgic vibes listening. It helps that the title of the song is about the area where AJ is from, plus the chorus. You've got AJ's line sounding like a garage MC. Doing it is this dark, moody UK hip-hop beat with these aggressive trumpet stabs. AJ's cadence, like most UK rappers, has this commanding tone to it, which works really well with the song, being that he's doing it. There's a lot of fun clips in the song as well. Run Man City, Like I'm Company. Nothing But Net is this easily US trap inspired sound. You've got these dark guitar sounds and these very trap laid drum beats. The groove has this very subtle bounce too, thanks to the drum beat. AJ gets into really good pockets in this song, using some very good flows and switching flows effortlessly. And Gig just comes in with a charismatic and kind of funny feature. Horror Flick is an absolute banger, and this probably carried the album here. One of the few things I love about grime is the chiptune Simz, giving the album this video game vibe. And Horror Flick is a very good example of this. The song is very fast-paced and aggressive with this very industrial sounding snare sound. AJ Tracey's flow on this song is insane, and his cadence just makes the song chef's kiss. Triple S is another fast-paced banger, but it's less aggressive as it's got this mellow synth sound, but AJ Tracey does not let up in the song. He starts with a quick flow and no drums, which really gets you in anticipation for the drums to hit. Then you've got AJ's second verse, where he lightly mocks the English national football team with this really fast flow. I think the main reason this album got so high might have been the fact that I didn't really have high expectations and it exceeded it pretty easily. Plus, the last 4 songs really raised this album standing to me personally. And AJ's Tracey has this commanding cadence and he seems like he's got really good lines as a rapper. At number 2, in second place, it's Zoo by Denzel Curry. If you've watched my top 50 albums of 2018, you should have seen this one coming. It's pretty obvious this would have come so high on this list. I was going to be too easily impressed with this album, and you know what? That's fine. Denzel Curry takes a break from the taboo sounds and breaks into a really interesting sound. There's a lot of arcadey synths, very distorted sounds, and a lot of really weird lo-fi filtering, and yet this album still manages to sound very clean. The opening title track has the dark vibes from Taboo, and Denzel Curry actually starts singing on this album, and his singing isn't even that bad, and it works really well. Zoo is this dark mellow trap banger where Denzel Curry introduces us to his area, Carol City, and how it's like a zoo. Plus, M's around my belt feeling like I'm Majin Buu. Ricky is this janky beat, which has this really arcadey feel mixed with classic 80s hip-hop vibes. Denzel Curry's cadence has always been impressive, and yet he doesn't let up. Ricky is this song about how his father raised him. Like, the hook has this mention about how his dad gave him the lesson of treating girls right, but his mother tells him not to trust women. Wish has this really dreamy pop sequence beat, but somehow the filtering on this track has managed to keep the song fit really nice with this album's aesthetic. And this song still works because it gives me this 80s vibe going through Miami, which is in Florida where Denzel was from. The song is this fun vibe where Denzel and Kiddo Marv bring up their rich lifestyles. Kiddo Marv manages to match Denzel's loud cadence easy with the way he raps. Birds is just a funky, janky trap beat. Denzel Curry just raps hard, like he's talking about how brutal and how crime-ridden his city is. He even lays it into this funny line about "fuck apart, tart, we carry toasters for real." I didn't even think Rick Ross would fit into this song, and yet he does, because he effortlessly slides into this beat like it was his in his verse in this track. Weirdly enough, I didn't like Automatic because Take Keith ruins a lot of beats, because a lot of them just sound like shoots. However, I will say, Denzel Curry does make work of this beat. The beat is very Southern rap inspired, and to be fair, Florida is from the South. Plus, most Floridian accents to me just sound like Southern ones, especially Denzel Curry. So he fits this beat personally. I didn't like the song at first, but it really snuck onto me when 2019 went on longer. It's got this really southern influence, and Denzel's flow on the second verse, when it's the drums and the 808s, really hits. Speedboat really makes me feel like I'm in Miami, and it's really sad as well, because Denzel talks a lot about his dangerous lifestyle in Carol City, and even mentioning XXXTentacion having passed away, and how he needs to make it to 24 because of it, because he didn't make it past 21. The pre-chorus has this prayer where Denzel is singing about how he doesn't want to have to kill to make it through. Carol Mart is another example of this janky arcadey 80s rap beat. It's got this mean feel with this synth and the bouncy 808s. This beat is just nasty and oozes heat. It's this really high party vibe as Denzel Curry talks about how he was raised in Carol City and how it shaped him. Shake 88 is not the kind of song I was expecting Denzel Curry to make, but wow, it bangs. It's this strip club anthem kind of track with a lot of up-tempo, with this sample stuttered and audio stretched to give it this high distorted feel. Denzel Curry just has so much charm in the song where he's not necessarily aggressive, but he's just vibing. It's a club banger. If you know why Scarlxrd is a number 7, do I have to explain why I love PAT? This really staticky sample, really heavy distorted 808s, and Denzel Curry just shouting on a song with pure Denzel energy. Someone please stop me, because I am committing a violent crime right now. Sticks like I'm Voldemort. Instant transmission, have your man missing. This man is violent. He said you're gone, you're dead, that's it, it's out, capiche? And you have the last line of Denzel's just sounds sad. We carry hollow tip because it reflects what's in my soul. And it's just so goddamn mean. Play That Boy Zay's feature also works. He comes in feeling like he's about to beat people up. You got that last part where he's just going, riot, riot, don't make me start a riot. It's just such a good ending to the track. And it just bangs. This album just bangs. Denzel Curry just never disappoints. Don't quit giving me his energy. And in first place for my top album of 2019 is Igor by Tyler the Creator. Let's just start, okay? Flower Boy was my favorite album of 2017, but I didn't do a list for that because I basically listened to 4 albums that year, and this album didn't need to hit as hard as it did. Tyler really improved from Flower Boy and went straight hard into the paint with some of the lo-fi and happy indie sounds he had in that album, and managed to take them and put them into Igor and develop it really well. Igor is a story of heartbreak and the loss of love, and we start this album with this long droning sawtooth synthesizer and these boom bap drums and Lil Uzi Vert just singing his way through. It's such a great opener to introduce into the album, letting you know this is not a rap album. You've got these spacey game-like synths floating around the beat and these really jazzy piano chords meshing well. Igor's mix is, well, cloudy, and cloudy fits with the theme of Tyler's thoughts being clouded over this lover he has. Earthquake is this slow jam with Roland TR 808 drum sounds. It's obvious Tyler's talking about the love he feels for another person. Man, vocally, he kills it with Charlie Wilson, especially with the refrain, "Darling, it's my fault." And it's powerful enough. I know when I heard that voice in the beginning, I knew Playboi Carti was coming, and yet he manages to fit. I think has a lot of the lo-fi characteristics I mentioned with the sizzle and Tyler's vocals sounding like he's in a different room than before. And you've got this booming bass. The song is groovy as heck with these synth brasses and Solange providing the singing in this. Running Out of Time has this distorted synth, which is enough to make me think that's a guitar. The song just has these soft Rhodes piano and then these different synths appearing and reappearing in different parts of the song. Initially, there's no drum, and so it gives it this very slow rhythm. But when the drum hits, we just get this wailing synth and the speed of the song picks up. It's just fun, as Tyler talks about, which is fleeting. Now, probably my favorite run of tracks of the year is New Magic Wand to Gone Gone Thank You. New Magic Wand is this dark, deep, distorted bass sound with these industrial sounding drums and whatever that not a hi-hat or cowbell sound I'm hearing. You've got these distorted piano sounds throughout, and the chiming of like magic gives it this dark, ominous vibe, and it makes sense as Tyler brings up how he's willing to do so much for the love of this person, that he'll go far for his love interest and the girl that they're with to possibly harm them. The song is just crazy in the end, where all the synth elements we heard throughout the song are coming together into the rest of the song, giving us the idea that Tyler's mind has gone crazy. It makes sense because Tyler, in a few times throughout this album, raps in this song, and it's about how dedicated he is to get rid of this girl. A Boy Is a Gun is so Kanye inspired, which surprises me he's not on this song. You've got these glistening pianos and these background vocals shouting, don't shoot me down, and these really twink imps, and you've got these gun sound effects. Yet, despite having tried to ruin this person's relationship with their girl, he's very angry that they're still hanging out, and he feels betrayed, like he's been shot. Hence the title, A Boy Is a Gun. Puppet has these guitar loops with this very movie-esque vibe, and this string section. We've got these really lo-fi drums, and this other string instrument on the right side of the panorama, and we've got Kanye singing on this, which is just what I wanted. And Kanye fits because obviously he's experienced heartbreak himself, even making a whole album about it, and Tyler sees Kanye as an influence on him, so it's obvious to have these big collage of ideas that just strike me like, damn, it's just good. What's good is it's a very energetic, bassy up-tempo song, and it's got this really dark melody, yet Tyler still finds a way to put a bit of happy, mellow jazz energy with this gliding synth and switching the chords a little bit. Tyler just spazzes out into rap in this song, and we have slowthai making a short opinions, just shouting, I see the lie, and I see the lie. Tyler even makes some references to having crashed his car at one point. Gone Gone just sounds like a camp jamboree, and man, it's peaceful. You've got these acoustic guitars and this percussion, and these backgrounds doing their la-las. It just gives me summery vibes. Man, again, high-pitched singing dudes make me want to sing, "My love's gone." It really does make you feel happy, and it makes sense as Tyler's finally accepted that this love is over. Tyler again raps on this, and it's always nice to see, especially with how deep his voice is, allowing him to stand out on the tracks and making him sound demanding. The thank you portion is this electronic, distorted, dreamy sequence with just boomy drums as Tyler's grateful for the experience, but how he now never wants to fall in love again. He's been hurt. I Don't Love You Anymore is the realization portion of the album where Tyler sings like a 20th century woman, where we get this lo-fi banger with this really heavy distorted synth. And Tyler's voice is mixed really low and fades into the music a lot in this one, which goes to show how cloudy he was before. Are We Still Friends is this slow jam country and jazz inspired closer, which works out for the name of the song. It's Tyler realizing and asking about the relationship about the two, wanting the two to still be on good terms. Tyler has these guitars, one coated in chorus, another one with the wah-wah pedal over, giving it the psychedelic vibe as well. This album is just chock full of so many interesting musical ideas, and Tyler is just able to construct them into just this beautiful album that just sounds cohesive. That's it for my top 50 albums of 2019. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and I can cut this down into not being an hour-long video. Please, pray for me if this doesn't end up being an hour-long video. I mean, this video's been interesting for me, to especially while I was just talking. I think one of the weird things about doing this a year late is that I really had to think about the mindset of why I thought these albums were great at the time. Because I didn't want to change anything, and I only really changed one album, and that was mostly because my initial perception of it wasn't positive, and I couldn't really find a reason why it would even deserve to be in the top 50 anyways. Maybe that could have changed to being positive but when I briefly listened to, I couldn't tell what it was that attracted me so much. As for there being a top 50 albums of 2020 video, there's definitely not going to be a top 50. In 2019, I listened to about 89 albums, whilst in 2020, I listened to 58. I might do a top 20, but no promises, honestly. There are albums I would love to talk about just because there are a few songs that I liked, but the rest of it necessarily wasn't good. And so now, this is now my top 50 list of 2019. Obviously, if you've seen me on Discord, you've noticed I had Igor as my Discord profile. And now I have my top album of 2020 as my Discord profile picture. Be sure to comment your favorite albums. What album did you like? It doesn't have to be 50. Go in the comments, comment your favorite albums. It doesn't have to be 50. It can be any number you want. But if you want to go 1,000, if you listen to 1,000 albums this year. Now to end the video, I would like to say like, subscribe, and remember, you are probably a complete stranger to me.